Alright, so let's see writing selectors in terms of an ID format. Okay, always remember when you write selectors as tag, we literally write the tag name as it is. Okay, we don't write its less than greater than brackets, but we just keep its name purely as it is. But this is called more global kind of thing, because then all the H1s or all the elements you're gonna style will have similar properties. To uniquely target the specific tag or a specific section of your page, we give them a unique identity. Okay, so it works two ways. First, in your body, ID must be there somewhere. Okay, because in order to hook it, in order to style it, the ID must be there somewhere within your body. Okay, now once the ID is there, you can target that ID using a selector in your CSS. That's how it works, right? The best example I'm going to show you for IDs, we normally use them when we add a div tag. Okay, we haven't used it before. So far, you all know how to use tables, right? Let me introduce you today with another container tag or a tag which will give you a kind of box within the browser. It's called div. Literally, the tag means division. Okay, it creates a division within your browser, within your HTML web page. Okay, like in a table, we have a cells, and which tag gives you cell in table tags? Which tag gives you a cell? TD. When we add a TD, it creates a column or a cell inside your rows. And inside TD, we actually dump the contents, right? We either add hyperlinks, we either insert images or paragraphs so that they can go inside a small cell or a box and it will look like a structured way. But normally, now we're going to add those contents inside a pair of div tag. Every single pair of a div gives you an invisible box. Okay, it's an invisible box. You don't see it in a browser. Divs are a way to create boxes in your web page, but they're all invisible. The only way to get a visual appearance for them in a site is to style them. Without CSS, all your div tags will be invisible. We won't see them. So it's same like having a table with the border equal to 0. So table border 0 means div tag. But you will see how easy it is to use divs now, because it saves a lot of coding which you unnecessarily type in tables. Okay. Now right now, in my body, I have only one h1 tag. Okay, and the page looks like this. This is how the page looks. Okay. Now for this, we will add one main box in this web page, which will have its own properties, which will have its own background color, its own border, its own width and height, and as many things you can imagine, you can apply for that particular box. Okay, so the first thing is we have to add that box physically in your codes using a div tag, and then through your CSS codes in the head, we need to give its properties so that it will look the way we like, right? Now, why I'm explaining to right now, because I want to explain you how to use IDs as a selector. So generally, when we add a div tag, one div tags will create our one desired box, okay, within the web browser, like that. But your web page is generally not just one box. Normally, you create a lot of divisions. We create one box for logo, one box for navigations, one box for animated banner, contents we can have in 2-3 boxes. We can have one block for copyright at footer. So we create so many divisions within our web page, and inside each division, we actually display the contents, right? Now, whenever you need all these kind of box or divisions in a web page, all of these are actually created using division tags. So the tag is same. You don't have tags like div1, div2, div3, and so on. It's the same opening and the closing pair. Okay? But then how you know, or how the browser will know that this division is different than the second one? Is there any way to identify it? Yeah. But div, every time you add a div, you use the same tag. So how a browser knows to give a different values to different divs? No. It's not about H1s. It's about giving them identity. What you do is whenever you add a div, for each div, you give an ID attribute. Now, an ID attribute is something which you can give it yourself. There is no rule. For example, I'm adding this ID for inserting a logo. I can give my division an ID called a logo. Okay? It's just naming yourself. So if I want to identify you individually in the classroom, you all have your unique names. Okay? When we register you on Sitting Girls, we get a unique registration number for each of you. Otherwise, Sitting Girls has millions of students registered. How they can differentiate? Same thing in a browser. When we insert so many different divs, there should be a mechanism in which we can separate them from each other. Because this div, I want it to look like 100 by 50 only. But this div, I want to look at 800 by 100 pixel in height and width, with a different color, with a different border. So how are you going to give them a different styling if they have a common name? All right. That's the only reason whenever we add a division, we give them a unique ID, exactly. And as long as that ID presents in the tag within the body of your web page, we can refer that ID in cascading style sheets. So when we style divisions, we actually don't style the tag. We actually style the ID. That's why through CSS ID styling, the browser will know that this particular div I have to style with these values. So ultimately, it will apply those values to the division, but it is applying them through the reference of ID. Okay, so it's a slightly different way of doing CSS. Now I'm going to show you this way, a practical example. Let me add one box. That box will have H1, which we already have it inside. And that box, I will show you how I can style it by selecting its ID as a selector, not the tag name as a selector. Okay. Theory may sound confusing, or maybe at the moment, but you have a recording, you can listen to it again. But once I'll show you the practical example, you'll see it quite simple. Right, let me just close this and show you the practical example. That's the page, which is here. In this page, in the body, we have H1 tag, right? Let me include this H1 tag inside a box. So just above the H1, I will add a pair of div. After closing H1, we are going to close the div. All right? Such a simple tag. Okay? If I'll save it and refresh the browser, do you see any change? There's no difference in the visual, because without CSS, the divs will be invisible. All right? But now we can give it a look by using a style sheets. So before we use style sheet, we will give a unique name to this particular div. Okay? The unique name, we go in the open pair, space, use attribute, ID equals double quotes. This is a common rule. And ID is, as a designer, as I said, is your skills. Don't give IDs like box 1, box 2, box 3, because if you have 50 boxes, you're gonna go mad. So generally what I do is, based on what contents I'm displaying, I give them a specific name. So if I'm using it for the logo, I give them a call logo box or logo. Is that it? There's no rule on capital, lower. Just don't give spacing between two words. So if I'll use it for main box, okay, whatever, we can change it later on. So right now my division has an ID called main box. Again, it's just an attribute, so visually it will not give any change. Okay, if I'll go back, let's pick this ID now and use CSS. That's the end of H1 in your style sheet. Next line. The only rule which will be slightly different compared to the others is the way we write the selector. When the selector is a tag, we just write the name of the tag as it is. But when the selector is an ID, we write in CSS hash symbol. Okay? Because this is the way W3C has given the codes. So whenever you want to style IDs in future, start them with hash symbol and then write the name of your ID as it is. Now in future, if the question again pops up in your mind that why, this is the only explanation I will give you in future also. That this is W3C's rule book, which says that if the selector is a tag, then just write name of the tag as it is. But if your selector is an ID of a tag, then write it with hash symbol and whatever the ID you have written. Now this should be exactly what's in the body. Even a single letter missed, capital, lower, the CSS will not work. Alright, so make sure that both are exactly same, and in CSS they should start with the hash symbol. Okay, that's it. That's the only difference. Rest, curly brackets, property, values, semicolons is all same. Only how to write the selector. So if that's clear to you, then I'm going to show you a few properties. Curly bracket open, curly bracket close. In between, I will write, let's say, width, colon, let's say 600 px, which is for pixel. So my box will have a 600 pixel width, okay? And second property for the same ID, I'm using background color, let's say white. Save it, check your browser. There you go. You see the difference now? The invisible section got its own style because we applied that selector and given this too. Now there's no limits on how many properties you can apply for your selectors, right? The document I have given you, it has a list of box properties you can apply. Right? For example, quickly I can show you a few more. Like I can give it height. You can, no, you can. It's up to your styling. There's some width, some height. The box looks like that. Okay. If I want to find a few more, next line, I can give a border. I want 1 pixel thick border with a dotted style or dashed as a style of the border, and whatever green color, semicolon. I got dashed border in a green color. Yeah. If I change the look, change its thickness to 5 pixels. That's it. Now you see why we don't use tables. In a body, I don't have anything but just single div tag. You try and achieve what you see right now here through the table, and you will end up having table tag, tr, td, background properties, and widths in the table. So much jargon in the body which is not needed. Answers why we use CSS and divs rather than using tables for layouting now. Okay. Experiment. You have as many properties you can try. I will show you later on a few more properties in which we can move this box wherever we want. Okay, so but that we can do later on. Let me stop